What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks.
I do have a media recommendation.
I love Lord of the Rings. Superheroes, movies, a little jack of all trades, I guess.
So what makes me a geek?
What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, your weekly pop culture podcast from Central Michigan Life, where we discuss all things geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you follow the CM Life Instagram and Twitter pages for updates on the podcast, and to look for us wherever you find your podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our website at www.cm-life.com. My name is Brendan Valentine, coming to you today from the Sanctum Sanctorum, if you're watching on video. If you're listening on audio, sorry, I'm coming to you from your earbuds or your phone speakers or something like that. And I'd like to thank you all for joining me and my fellow co-hosts this week, who are going to introduce themselves in a second with our question of the week. This week's question comes to us from an anonymous Twitter user, and they ask, what is your, in honor of what if, what is your favorite alternate version of a character? So like a non-canon version that's just slightly different than the main series version. I can go first real quick. My favorite alternate version of a character would be the Batman Who Laughs as an alternate version of the Joker in the DC Metal event. I know he's still a pretty recent character and has yet to, have like this really deep backstory, but the stuff he's in is just so good. And he's such a it's hard to get more chaotic than the Joker, and he's more chaotic than the Joker. So, yeah. Alrighty, co-hosts, would one of you like to answer our question?
Hello, Isaac Hunter here. Coming to you from my couch. Unless for those listening at home. My favorite alternate version of a character. There's so many good ones, especially like movies with like parallel universes and whatnot. I really do like the Lex Luthor from the Injustice comic/game. Because it's like Lex Luthor, but he's just genuinely like a good person. And he's smart, brilliant, and he uses all of his science for the good of humanity. But unfortunately, he's in a world with an evil Superman, so not much you can do there. I also do like in Futurama, the alternate versions of like all the main characters from the parallel universe, like B or whatever, or I think it's A, because where everything is just different from the flip of a coin. And so it's like someone dyed their hair because they flipped a coin about whether or not they should dye it and whatnot. And that's the only difference. Pretty good.
Hi everyone, I'm Hope Gooderl. So my favorite character, whatever, is so there's a web series, YouTube series, that was about Finnick and Annie, and it was like a small company, just like a few people making it, and I honestly like loved the Finnick that they had there. Like it was perfect, and I tried unsuccessfully, obviously, to get that actor to play Finnick, because it was like, okay, but some of us have been watching this from the Hunger Games, so like, can we have him? But I do love Sam Claflin a lot. He was good as Finnick, but it was a different kind of Finnick. Like it was, I don't know, like it was a bit softer of a Finnick Odair.
Because Finnick definitely comes across as a jerk in the books until you get to Mockingjay.
Yeah. Which like he still was and still acted like it at times in this YouTube series. But like there was like, you could tell just how the actor was portraying Finnick, of like the softness behind the exterior that he shows. So
Finnick deserved better than what happened.
Yes, he did. So did the ending of Mockingjay. But we're not going into that today. So
the film or the book?
Both.
I don't know. I like the ending of the book.
Both. Ending she wrote after she got the 4-movie contract. The 4 movies. So I have issues with it. But like I said, I'm not going into that today. So
Alrighty. Well, thank you both very much. Now to get things started, we like to share some quick geek news this week. So, Hope, Isaac, what have you got for us?
I can start. First, some just simple news for those geeks that don't have the time or just are choosing not to see Shang-Chi in the theater. There is a release date. It is coming to Disney Plus November 12th. And so, just wait a month and a half and you can enjoy all 10 rings. And it is such a good movie. And then my second news is, especially after the Marvel What If zombies, Mark Miller, who is a former Marvel comic book writer, known for writing the Civil War arc in comic series, he made a post saying, if my sources are correct, a little live action Marvel zombies further down the line, but you never heard that from me. And I would love that because I love Marvel zombies. And I don't know. I think that just is a whole nother take on live action Marvel that I would love to see. Hope?
I also heard that about the zombies, that there's potentially a live action version coming out. Speaking of Disney movies and Marvel Studios movies coming to Disney Plus, Black Widow will officially not be on Premiere Access anymore on October 6th. So just a few days before Shang-Chi. And I will actually watch it and only give Disney the money of, my streaming service as of right now. But on sadder news, the actor Willie Garson, who played Mozzie on White Collar, Herschel, and Hawaii Five-O, he was Mr. Frenchie on a couple episodes of Wizards of Waverly Place. He unfortunately passed away earlier this week. So this past week, for when you guys are listening on Monday. I'm not sure what exactly he passed away from, but he passed away at the age of 57. And so he was one of my favorite people to see on screen because he was just always fun and just emulated a really positive energy in whatever he was doing. And so I'm gonna miss seeing him on screen and new stuff. But on happier news, for fans of the Harry Potter universe, Fantastic Beasts has released the title and release date of the third Fantastic Beasts movie, The Secrets of Dumbledore. And that, instead of being released on July 15th, it is now going to be April 15th. So Easter weekend of next year is when that'll be released. I have a fun piece of news for anyone who loves the film Hocus Pocus. There is now a Hocus Pocus game to play with your fellow witches, as it says in the article. And so just to read, so just like in the film Hocus Pocus, the Sanderson sisters will try to sabotage your game by casting spells, but you can use help from Thackeray Binks the cat and tricks like the Rain of Death to help you along the way. So you're actually trying to prevent the witches from completing their evil potion versus being the witches.
As one should stop them because they killed a little girl in the first 5 minutes.
Speak for yourself, Isaac. I support those witches.
Listen, they turned McGee into a cat, okay?
Yeah, but an immortal cat.
That's true. And finally, this isn't geek news, but it is very relevant to our world today, and accepting what we did in the past as bad and trying to apologize for it and everything. So the CMU Native American program has come out and posted on their Instagram, and it might come out later, that on September 30th, so next week Thursday, so the Thursday after this episode comes out, wear an orange shirt to honor American Indian boarding school and Canadian residential school survivors. So orange is very, you might have seen it around with other things and been oh, what's that about? It's to honor those that had to endure those terrible places. And so next week Thursday is Wear Orange Shirt Day. Yeah, that's my geek news.
Thank you very much, Hope. I just have one quick piece of geek news. Right before we started recording this podcast, I watched the Nintendo Direct, which I will save the majority of that news for our video gaming podcast here at CM Life Level Up Chips. Which, if you
Woohoo!
haven't watched, go watch it. It's an awesome podcast. One of our editors, Mike Gonzalez, is one of the co-hosts on over there, and it's an awesome podcast. But they not only in this Nintendo Direct did they confirm that Nintendo is working with Illumination Studios, the same people that developed movies like Despicable Me and Sing, to create a Super Mario movie. They announced who will be voicing some of the major characters in this film, such as the main man himself, Mario, will be voiced by Chris Pratt. His brother Luigi will be voiced by Charlie Day. The strong heroine herself, Princess Peach, will be voiced by Anya Taylor-Joy. And then Toad will be voiced by Keegan-Michael Key. Seth Rogen will be doing the voice of Donkey Kong. Charles Martinet, the voice of most Mario characters, will be making cameos in the film, but they did not say what kind of cameo, so that's supposed to be a mystery. But then some side characters will also be returning in the movie, just to, like, see, be around in the world. Kevin Michael Richardson will be voicing Kamek, Fred Armisen will be voicing Cranky Kong, and Sebastian Maniscalco will be voicing Spike. So, I really hope that Goombas get a voice in here too. That's my biggest hope for this movie, but this seems like this is not the cast I was expecting for the Super Mario movie, so we will see. I was really, I find it odd we're not getting an Italian voicing Mario, but all right.
Yeah, I'm really curious on, is Chris Pratt going to be, using a faux Italian voice, and is that allowed?
I really hope not. I hope we don't get Chris Pratt going wahoo. However,
did any of you actually watch the original live action Super Mario?
I tried.
Oh, no.
I tried.
I grew up with that on VHS. I watched it so many times, and it took me a long time to realize how
didn't it have songs in it?
Oh dear.
I think there was a song in it.
Like it had like an original. I remember going to the library as a kid and seeing like in the CD section there was a Super Mario CD, and I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this. And then like there was a song on there where Bowser sings, like, it's called "Ignorance is Bliss," and I was like, what the heck?
Oh man, what a movie!
Oh yeah.
Where you find out that if their names are Mario, and Luigi Mario.
Yep, Mario Jumpman Mario. If you ever watched any of Game Theory's YouTube videos, Mario Jumpman Mario. Alrighty. Well, that's our geek news for the week. So let's move on to our main topic. So we actually got a wonderful question from one of our most avid listeners, and that would be Hope's dad. So shout out to Hope's dad. I don't know your first name, so Greg. I'm very sorry. Greg?
Shout out to Greg.
Shout out to Greg. So let me just find it real quick, the exact wording of the question so I don't butcher it. So he asked, hey geeks, how many characters or heroes are the actual person while their alter ego is the public persona? Example, is Batman Bruce Wayne's alter ego, or is Bruce Wayne Batman's alter ego? So, this got us thinking, just how important are secret identities? What kinds of different secret identities are like shown in the kinds of media we watch? And like the question that was actually asked, like, who is, like, which characters are like that alter ego, such as Batman or Superman, that type of, is that their real identity? Or where it's flip-flopped, that's their not real identity, that's not how they think of themselves. So to start off, to answer that question, it was more of an example, but to answer it for everyone, is Bruce Wayne Batman's secret identity, or is Batman Bruce Wayne's secret identity? There's a couple different ways to think about it, but the way that it has been portrayed the best, in my opinion, is if any of you have ever watched the Batman Beyond animated series, there is an episode where Shriek, one of the villains, tries to extort Bruce Wayne's money by like using the sound technology that he has to make Bruce Wayne think he's like hearing voices, so he gets sent to like a mental institution. I don't think it was Arkham, but it might have been Arkham. But at the end of the episode, after Terry McGinnis is Batman Beyond does like stops Shriek, he goes up to Bruce and is like, yeah, wait, I'm glad you didn't fold and you didn't like sign those papers that would like give away all your money. And Bruce was like, oh, I knew it was a trick the whole time. I just didn't know what was going on and I had to play along so that they didn't kill me. And then Terry is like, oh, well, how did you know it was a trick? He's like, oh, they kept calling me Bruce. That's not what I call myself in my head. Which implies Bruce Wayne in his head when he's talking to himself, I have that internal monologue, like, dang it, Brendan, why did you do that? Bruce Wayne, when he stubs his toe, goes, gosh darn it, Batman.
Batman, you got this. You're going to ace this
Exactly.
test.
So, like, the man is Batman and the persona is Bruce Wayne. Is where that's shown up in the comic books a lot, like that idea. But like that, I think is the most clear. So to answer that specific question, I really like that. But to talk more broadly, secret identities. Do either of you two have like a favorite like secret identity like person duo? Or like what do you think like is the function of the secret identity for that character?
So my background, I didn't say this because like I'm not anywhere other than my room, but my background, for those of you watching, is Zorro, Antonio Banderas' version.
Wait, Hope, are you saying you don't go visit a place to record the podcast every week? Because I definitely go visit a place. I'm currently in Queens in the Sanctum Sanctorum. Is the Sanctum Sanctorum in Queens? Which borough of New York?
I don't know. It's in one of the boroughs of New York.
I think it's in Queens.
Alexa, where's the Sanctum Sanctorum?
I know it's on Bleecker Street.
Yeah, where's Bleecker Street?
Well, I don't have like the money to go to either Texas,
Manhattan.
New Mexico.
Yeah, it's in Manhattan.
Okay.
So I went to Manhattan for this episode, Hope. I don't know why you're not putting in the same effort.
Because either Texas, Arizona, or New Mexico is a little bit farther away and a different time zone than New York and Manhattan. So if we all wanted to be on the same time zone.
I went to Mars for one episode. I was with Dr. Manhattan. I was with Dr. Manhattan on Mars for that one episode. I talked for like an hour about Watchmen.
Ooh.
I vaguely remember that.
Wait a minute. Speaking of Watchmen, I do have a Watchmen comic behind me. I do think that Rorschach is definitely an interesting person when it comes to secret identities.
Absolutely.
Since
real quick, I
Go
did cut Hope off from talking about Zorro. So
yeah.
Go ahead. I was just trying to be funny. So go ahead, Hope.
Anyways, Zorro, in my opinion, is like he is Zorro, and then his alter ego is, hold on, I had to look this up to get the full name, is Don Alejandro de la Vega, is the alter ego that is used to like go to the white men who are trying to, enslave the Mexicans and everything to do whatever the hell they want so they can get rich. Is the one who goes there and acts all gentlemanly and like, proper, and then is like, ha, psych, I'm just lowering your defenses and figuring out how to get in here so that, Zorro can come in and take out the bad guys. So like that's one of my favorites is Zorro. I absolutely love those movies. So, and the story in general. I say.
Yeah. Do you know that Batman was based on Zorro? Is based on Zorro and Sherlock Holmes. Which
that makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I brought up Watchmen just because Rorschach, the deplorable human that he is.
I don't know. Rorschach's one of my personal heroes.
I love him, but he has some trains of thought that you should probably not jump on. He calls his mask, his superhero mask, his face. And when at one point they're taking off his mask, and he's like, "Don't take my face." And so like he wholly is the identity of Rorschach. He's no longer the person he was before. and if anything, that's his disguise. He goes out into the street corner with a sign dressed as a homeless person, saying the end is nigh, I think is what the sign says. It might change depending on, but that's
It
just
changes
like,
throughout the comic book
yeah,
what it says.
that's just his like dress up. Like himself is when he's in a trench coat and hat, with the ink blot mask, and I do think that's so cool.
I love that in both the graphic novel and the movie. Like through the first like 2/3 of it, you see this like guy wandering around at sight to like, who the heck is this guy? Like and he looks like disheveled and all this stuff. But that was just Rorschach going, because no one knows what his actual like what that the flesh face underneath the ink blot mask is. Um, and that's just how he sneaks around. That's how he goes to the comedian's funeral without getting caught. All that stuff. And that scene in both the comic panels and in the film adaptation where like they're trying to take his stuff to process him through prison. He's like, "Don't take my face," and it's like it's like agony, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I feel so bad. But yeah, that was it. For me, it was a close call between Rorschach and
Meshach
did
and
I say
Abednego. Sorry, that's the wrong reference.
no? Did I say mine yet?
King Nebuchadnezzar. No, you did not.
I didn't. I was trying to remember who did I say? And I was like, oh, I hadn't said it. But I think I was actually going to say Rorschach as well.
Oh no,
But
I'm sorry.
no, you're good, because I was debating between a couple before I thought about it. The pair that I really like before like besides we've talked about Batman, we've talked about Rorschach. I really like the distinction between Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Because they have like quote unquote similar personalities, but like I think like we've talked about like with Rorschach and Zorro and all of that and Batman, that the vigilante identity is so they can kind of get away with the like the kind of the darker side of it. The thing I like about Spider-Man and Peter Parker is like he is both equally Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He doesn't like have a quite preference for it, at least the way I read the Spider-Man comics. But like Peter Parker is way more like introverted, and that's kind of where like Peter is comfortable. And to fully express himself, he becomes Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like he's a lot quippier. He's
Confident.
more confident. That's like when he wants to come out of his shell, but like when he needs a break, he's Peter. And I really like that like dichotomy of it, where it's like I need both of these, where I feel like that's kind of lacking in some other characters with secret identities that try and keep them secret.
And when
Is
he
it's like
needs a
no,
break from being Peter Parker, he becomes Tom Holland.
exactly. Or Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, depends on which
No,
decade you
well,
Or Jake Johnson.
I was gonna say, so if he wants a break from Peter Parker, he can become Tobey Maguire. If he wants a break from Spider-Man, he can become Andrew Maguire.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew
Garfield.
Maguire.
Andrew Garfield, and if he wants a break from being both, he becomes Tom Holland. So
Is this based off of the common rhetoric that Toby was the best Peter, Andrew was the best Spider-Man, and Tom Holland is the best of both?
yes, and also the fact that, like, honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Tobey Maguire's acting in much of anything he does, because he always seems to play the same type of character, like very much typecasted, and that's usually like the
It's like 90%
bumpy-
of Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, at least some actors can show
Listen,
differences.
we can't all play Mario and
Exactly.
Star-Lord
And Star-Lord and whatever his character's name is in the Tomorrow War.
and Jurassic World.
Star-Lord and his character from Jurassic.
They're
Star-Lord
like the same.
Yeah, it's just Star-Lord if he had dinosaurs instead of a jetpack.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then jumping off from Spider-Man, I feel like the MCU is actually a really good place to look at this. Or not even just the MCU, but like Marvel, because the idea of secret identity, you can kind of see like in the MCU, Doctor Strange does not have a secret identity. It's all in that line from Infinity War. He's like, "Oh, we're using our made-up names," and Strange is like, he doesn't say anything, but like the look on his face is like, "Oh no, that's my real name." and like he once he became the Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen Strange, the Doctor, no longer existed, and he transformed into Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme. And like they are one person, and that's a type of, I guess, a way to look at the secret identity is there is no secret identity. There is one identity.
Well, that's
And
the
then you
same
got
with Tony Stark too. Is the fact that
I'd argue they're different because
really,
I'd say Tony Stark has like the public persona, but his secret identity is not secret, but he still has two. He has Tony Stark and Iron Man.
see, because I feel like at least in the and I'm going based off the movies, not the comics, because I haven't read the comics. Like maybe in like the first couple that there's more of a separation between Iron Man and Tony Stark, but then once you get farther into the movies, they're basically like one person, especially when he's able to just like tap his wrist and become Iron Man or whatever.
That's what I was thinking about when I was like analyzing this in my head of like where does Tony fall on this continuum of no secret identity or one identity and like two like completely different identities that are both like equally important. And I feel like because he's able to like put the suit on so quick, it's easier to like see them as the same person. But I still feel like that one scene where he's like, I am Iron Man, it's like owning it, like Tony Stark and Iron Man, it's the same guy, but I feel like he's expressing himself differently as Tony Stark the Playboy. And that person evolves. Like from being the Playboy to the Playboy in the first one, the alcoholic in the second one, and then like the recovering, like I guess I don't want to say war hero, but like Avenger, the recovering Avenger from the Battle of New York in 3, and then you can see through Civil War and Infinity War that and Endgame that he becomes more of like a stable like father figure. However, I feel like Iron Man is a different evolution because it's a technological one, and it becomes more and it mirrors Tony's, but I still feel like they're separate. Like Tony has personal issues, and as his personal issues evolve, the armor evolves. Like as the people in his life like experience, like a lot of people like point out in like Instagram memes and stuff like that, like Rhodey got shot out of the sky, so Peter got a parachute in his suit. Tony got lost in the cold, so Peter's suit got a heater. Like, and the same thing, like Thanos could like blow away his nanotech shield, so he got the Wakandan type shield in Infinity War. So like it's the armor is like not representing his like personal defense mechanisms and his like fears come to life, and the armor is how he protects himself from those, but he also has these personal evolutions. And I feel like that's how a lot of secret identities function, is as one side of the identity becomes more mature and grows in some area, so does the other side, but that varies with different characters depending on their relationship with secret identity.
Also, when it comes to people in the Marvel universe that don't have secret identities, which is most of them, Thor. I was gonna say Thor, which in the comics many times goes as Dr. Donald Blake. And at one point, he does have his fake license in the first Thor movie. So technically, he has an alternate identity that fooled a few people. But no, like, yeah, he's Thor. That's who he is. That's his name. He just happens to be a giant Asgardian warrior. If anything, his only differing personalities are when it comes to responsibility. Like, if as the king of Asgard, which doesn't exactly happen, but he's kind of like immature, and he's got to mature himself, and there's kind of like these two different areas of like when he's being a total fool and when he's also, I don't know, on a mission. But no secret identity. He doesn't need one.
I think looking at what's behind you, Isaac, where we keep focusing on just like MCU, but in X-Men, you might be able to argue that Magneto and Professor X are this, like, they don't, like, yes, they have like their alter ego, like, Eric and Charles, thank you. I was like, Professor X's name is but like they have those names so that they can go out into the world and be normal, but like they are their powers at the same time too. Like
yeah.
Mhm.
Mutant
don't
and
think-
proud.
yeah, and I don't think Charles really ever tried to like not use his powers on anyone.
I
At
mean,
least,
he's
like with
he's
the
not like
new
Beast.
movies, but
Yeah, he's not like
Mhm.
Beast who physically wanted to hide it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but
I
like
think
when
that
I
I
was
think
gonna
the
say just
X-Men are. Oh, I'm sorry, Hope.
Yeah.
We keep talking over each other. Go for it.
just really quick, like in X-Men First Class when Raven was like, "You promised you would never look inside like my head," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like if he knows you're hiding something, Charles seems like the person that would just be like, oh, okay, there's the answer,' and there." So
Mhm.
yeah, you were saying, Brendan, being
I feel like the X-Men are a really good example of a different kind of, like we talked about, like we've got your like Batman and Rorschach, that it's like they are the opposite identity but use they're the hero identity and use the civilian identity as like a way to get around and get away with things and hide. Then we got your Peter Parker, which is like a balance, like a life balance. It's how they get through it. Then you've got like your Tony Starks, which is like they're both out there. They're not secret, but they're different identities. You got your Doctor Strange, which is there's one identity, but the X-Men is another layer of it where it's like both of them, like I need this other identity. Like my powers are my identity, and I can't hide that. But because I'm going to be discriminated against because this is my identity, I need a cover. So it's not quite the same as like Stark, because Stark can be public about it. It's not quite the same as Peter's, because Peter's is like, I am both of these people. The X-Men are like, I'm not this fake person, but I need to have this fake persona,
yeah,
which is just another way to do it.
yeah. Because some X-Men really like some are like, oh, it's Jean Grey. She's literally a normal human that just happens to be able to move things with her mind. And for the longest time, I thought her superhero name was just Jean Grey, because she doesn't really go by Phoenix unless she's the Phoenix now.
With the Phoenix Force, yeah, she usually
Yeah.
doesn't.
I don't. Does she have another name?
Usually it's Phoenix, but like she's gone by Jean Grey just as the
Yeah,
hero.
just as like a hero. It's like
Well, it's just
Cyclops,
like
Iceman, Jean Grey,
you've got
Wolverine.
like Wolverine for the majority of his career just goes by Wolverine. Like people call him Logan, but like Logan doesn't just go out into the public. He's not that nonchalant about being Wolverine.
And
But
Logan's also a title, because isn't his name James Howlett?
Yep,
Birth name? Oh my gosh,
yeah,
layers.
but he was
he's
trying
got
to like separate himself from his half brother. Like I feel like Logan has multiple levels too of like his identity, not just like trying to separate himself from his half brother, who in the first one was essentially evil and terrible, but also like when his memory gets wiped and then he has to go and remember everything, like when he gets sent back to the past because of the giant spaceship thingies that destroyed mutants and could find them in X-Men
Sentinels?
Days. Yeah,
Yeah,
in X-Men Days of Future Past. And then like the Logan in Logan, the Logan movie, where like he's old man Logan. Like I feel like he also
Love
has just
old man Logan.
multiple alter egos just based on like what he has to go through.
yeah. He goes through a lot. Gosh. And then there's also the whole layer of people with secret identities, or people that I guess take on a new identity and almost like lose the original one, like almost all the time. And the question. Oh, definitely, that's a good answer. To a question. In my head, I was thinking V from Vendetta,
That's a good one.
because you still don't know who he is. Like by the end of the movie, you don't know who V is because he says, "I am V now." Like it's his new identity. Even the man under the mask is still V. He mostly wears it just because it's an image. And I do really love V for Vendetta, and I love that concept of he becomes an idea wholly, and like he's no longer immortal anymore, basically, because ideas can't die.
Mhm.
What about Wilson Bethel's character Benjamin Dex Pondexter in the Marvel Netflix Daredevil, when he like becomes Daredevil, like in later in season 3, I think it is, because that's when he's in it. Like he becomes that evil Daredevil, and then he's like, no, I am Daredevil. Like there is no Dex anymore. There is just Daredevil. I think that would be another. It would be, instead of hero, more villain or anti-hero. But I think that would be a good example too.
I feel like too. Actually, that's a good point about bringing up villains in this. I hadn't thought about that before we started this. I guess like villains have like secret identities, but like either they get exposed or they're like the villain just kind of drops them eventually.
Yeah.
Like the mystery is finding out who they are, but it's not a secret identity usually. Like I'm thinking like Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, same thing. Like Lex Luthor, um, most of the Marvel villains like Kang the Conqueror, Galactus, Thanos, um, any of the MCU like movie villains like Eric Killmonger is Eric Killmonger. Um, like why do I know like the general like cliche answer is like heroes have secret identities to protect their loved ones, not themselves. But and from a narrative perspective, like why not also have villains more commonly keep that secret identity, even though we're not following them? Like, what purpose does it serve for a protagonist that it doesn't serve for an antagonist?
Yeah, I mean, and it's like sometimes for Batman's sake, even if his villains try to like be secret, he knows who they are all the time. Like, is it Killer Moth? Killer Moth has like his like backstory is basically it's fake, but it's basically like a Bruce Wayne millionaire that becomes a caped crusader at night, but it's like Killer Moth is evil. But to Batman, that's still Killer Moth, even if he's the guy. But the Joker, I was thinking about, is 100% the Joker all the time, and we still don't really have.
See, and I was thinking
secret
about that
identity.
because I was thinking about like Heath Ledger's Joker and like the Christian Bale Batman series. Because with the Joker, like he wants that recognition, and it's just being chaotic and evil, and he's like, no, I'm the Joker, like fear me. But then I was thinking about Harvey Dent, I think, the Two-Face.
Two-Face.
Yeah,
Yeah, and how like he eventually lost his alter ego, like his civilian persona, because he accepted.
No, not
No?
quite. So that's the interesting thing about Two-Face is because they don't do a great job of actually portraying this, and as a psych person, I don't love using the language I'm going to use, but he technically has multiple personality disorder,
Oh, that's true.
where Harvey Dent is talking to Two-Face the entire time, and Harvey Dent is like he's pissed and angry at like where his life is, but he's not a criminal, while Two-Face is a criminal, and like
justice.
Harvey's like justice at any cost, and Two-Face is like, yeah, at any cost. Um,
Well, because
so
like I
it's
remember the line in the movie about like, yeah, now like your guys' nickname of me being Two-Face is like something about like being accurate now, or like his new name. So I think that's why I was thinking like
well, the movie. He doesn't get enough screen time as Two-Face to really like
that's fair.
explore it, but like the movie doesn't exactly go into it as in depth as like the comics and even Batman the Animated Series does, where it's like Harvey Dent already had this issue before he became of duality, before he like got scarred on the right side of his face, and that just pushed him over the edge, where it fully developed that there's the Harvey Dent personality, and then there's the civilian identity of Harvey Dent, where he's like an attorney and he acts like an attorney, and then there's this darker side to him that has anger management issues, and wants to kill people. So that's a
Easy.
that's a weird one where they kind of coexist at the same time. It's not quite the same as like Peter Parker's I'm Peter when I need it, and I'm Spidey when I need it, but they both exist happily in one body. This is like they both do not exist happily in one body, but they're stuck there.
Ooh, I just thought of someone that I've been trying to think ever since you said villains don't have a reason for it a lot of times. I just thought about Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio, because you see him as a normal man, like walking around and like following Peter. And that's like, I don't know. I mean,
Screen grabs of like that are being shared on
Yeah.
social media where it's like, by the way, you missed this. I was like, no, I didn't. No, you don't get to do this.
I caught one of them in the theaters, and I was like, oh, "That's weird. Why was
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal there?" And then I was like, "They did it later." I'm like, "Oh,
they're doing a thing. And obviously, I mean, to Spider-Man, like, because Mysterio is a fake identity. Like, he made that for an audience, which I think is pretty interesting for a villain. Is he's only this Mysterio guy. Otherwise,
his secret identity is part of a scheme."
yeah. And then I was thinking about there's Basil Carlo or Clayface from Batman. He is all about identities, but he is you're right. He is also just Clayface. That's him. His fake identities are just covers. But I was thinking about one Gwen Grayson from the esteemed movie Sky High, as Gwen Grayson is Royal Pain, and she's in her fake identity the entire time. Which apparently, I just googled it. Gwen Grayson isn't even her real fake name. Her real name is Susan Tenney.
Yeah.
But she goes by Gwen, fake identity, and then she's actually Royal Pain, which is just a moniker.
Oh, that's a good example.
Yeah.
But okay, so like the two that you've brought up, so Mysterio and then Gwen, not Gwen, Royal Pain, whatever.
She's such a good villain. God.
They both had people behind them. Like whether you want to call them sidekicks or like
Yes.
like co-conspirators. I don't know what you want to like call it, but like so like with Mysterio, his human identity, civilian identity was, I can't remember his actual name, but that he and a bunch of other former Stark employees are like using Stark's tech to be like, hey, we're doing this for the benefit of us. And like also thinking about Michael Keaton in the first Spider-Man movie, he was, the Vulture. I was about to say the Falcon. I was like, that is not right whatsoever. The Vulture, like he has his family, and like he doesn't. I mean, the Vulture never really truly tried to do anything evil, but like,
oh no, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of Spider-Man: Homecoming was that reveal that like no, he does have a secret in it. Like, and that's a really good example. Hope I like that, and I think that archetype really works. And I think it humanizes a villain.
yes,
That shows and that could be why they don't always put them in there, is because it's humanizing. And if you don't want to humanize your villain, you do the ego oriented thing, like where they're like, call me Whiplash, or like things like that, or call me the man, like most of the Iron Man villains, where there's like I am a powerful guy, so you got to call me by some moniker now.
I'm evil Iron Man.
Exactly. I'm Ironmonger.
I'm Ultron.
Gosh, and he has a family, and none of his family knows.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Good.
Oh, okay. Spider-Man Far From Home ending spoilers, or I guess Spider-Man No Way Home trailer spoilers. What do you think, like, now that everyone knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man, Liz has got to be like so mad from the first movie. She's like, you put my dad in prison while you abandoned me at prom? That you did the whole thing?
Homecoming, not prom. Homecoming.
Homecoming. Yeah.
This is the name of the movie.
It is the name of the movie.
Come on.
At the dance.
Oh, I hope we get some Liz content. I doubt it, but
oh my gosh, that'd be so funny.
Just
Okay,
like,
what if like they did it on like Instagram or something? Like all of a sudden, like Liz and Michelle like see each other because Zendaya and Tom Holland are now dating, and like they have just some like do some video about it. That would be kind of funny, actually.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. So we need in theory a sixth member of the Sinister Six based on the trailer. So we've got Electro's in there, Green Goblin, Doc Ock,
Sandman,
what are the
Sandman.
maybe
possibly.
like there's rumors that Kraven the Hunter's in there. So maybe Michael Keaton doesn't get out of prison and we have the Vulture, but Liz is the Vulture.
Ah,
So we're talking like, wait, wasn't Green Goblin in there?
In theory,
Because
yeah, Green Goblin. Because we
yeah,
saw
that was
but I also have I've thought so in the comics Ned becomes Hobgoblin, which is very similar aesthetically looking to Green Goblin in terms of like weapons.
but orange.
But yeah, which the bomb is orange, but with the green light in the middle.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't be I don't know, maybe it's just an alternate universe version of Ned that's like the ultimate villain that is the Hobgoblin. But also maybe somehow Ned becomes a villain in this movie.
That would be
The actor
awesome.
got into like really good shape.
Yeah.
So like
Jacob
if he
Batalon.
yeah, if he needs to do stunts, it's he can I mean I'm sure he could do them before, but like it'd be a lot easier now. Um
Ugh.
Oh, that's good.
Dang.
Remember when
I
Ned
Alright.
spoiled
see-
all of Infinity War in the beginning?
That-
We're all
Oh
gonna
yeah,
die.
we're all gonna die.
Um, I was gonna say I was gonna tie something very similar to the same concept of Vulture. Is this is gonna be an Invincible spoiler, but the character Titan, who's like the rock skin villain,
Mhm.
like he just goes by Titan, but then Invincible finds out that he has his own home and own family, and like it really does humanize him to the point where you're like, oh, Titan's an anti-hero, and it's like, but is he just an anti-hero only because I know he has a family that he's trying to do things for?
Speaking of Invincible, the hero robot, like he's not as compelling when you don't know that he has an alternate identity. When you think he's just an AI program,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, he's cool, he's funny, he's quippy, not my favorite character. Then you get this whole like backstory of like, oh no, he's a guy that created this AI program. Yeah, no, and that
Baby
now he's
man.
trying. I know.
Spoiler.
Like, yeah, spoil. I'm not trying to like spoiler the whole thing, but like then he has a whole story arc about becoming human again, and it's like, oh, that's really compelling because he's a
Yeah.
person. So, I think the way I wanted to kind of like end and like wrap up the conversation, I guess, unless you have anything like really big else you want to talk about, is either of you anything?
Does Superman have three identities? Clark Kent, Kal-El, and then Superman.
Ooh, yeah, no, let's talk about that. We didn't even touch a whole lot on the DC side of it, but I feel like most DC heroes are I have I have a personal identity and I use the superhero identity to protect
Yeah.
my loved ones.
Yeah.
They are both equally valid, but my true personality is, the hero. And I
would say
even though
probably the one that I can think of would be Barry Allen, Flash.
Mhm.
Because at least in the TV show, they try and portray him more as Barry Allen than the Flash. Like he uses his powers for good, but like he's still Barry Allen.
Yeah, well, the "we are the Flash" statement kind of
Yeah.
reflects how it is kind of in the comics. So Barry's very like protective of his secret identity in the comics. He doesn't want people to know. But like every villain somehow finds out, just like in the show. But things like that, like his identity is really important because of his relationship with Reverse Flash, and Reverse Flash finding out that the Flash is Barry Allen is what causes the Flash to be the Flash. In a weird paradox way. In some universes, in other universes, it's not the same. But yeah, the idea of identity with the Flash is actually pretty indicative of how it is for most of the DC universe, except for a couple anomalies like Question, Superman, Batman,
Cyborg.
Spectre, Cyborg.
Cyborg is Cyborg.
Cyborg.
Aquaman.
Well, Cyborg has a weird thing because he wants to be Vic Stone, but
Yeah.
he can't be.
That's
So
true.
like
Ooh,
he has an inaccessible identity.
that Teen Titans episode where he goes back in time and then they make art of him and he doesn't have armor on. Sorry. Continue.
But yeah, Superman is another really interesting one because I feel like Superman's closer to that Peter Parker archetype,
Mhm.
where it's like I value being Clark Kent and I value being Superman and I value being Kal-El, And part of my life is balancing that, because Superman is such an overarching part of his life. He can't really stop being Superman, but he has to.
Yeah.
The show Superman and
Well,
Lois tackles this
yeah,
really well.
that's what I was about to say. Is I think the new show Superman and Lois definitely tackles that really well. Of like, how does he, especially with Lois's dad, being like, no,
Sam
he has
Lane.
to be Superman. Yeah, and she's like, he is a father to my children, and he is a husband to me. Like, no, he's not just Superman. Um, so I think, yeah, the new show definitely portrays the balance and how he balances it really
And
And
well.
Supergirl also attaches like in that show, they tackle
Mhm.
the Kryptonian aspect of it too. Like, I have this heritage that I don't want to abandon because I'm one of the last of my people, but also my people, like, I can't interact with my people. So that's a whole
yeah,
part of it too. You've got,
does Superman and or Supergirl, like, Superman never tells like citizens his name's Kal-El. Like, Kal-El
Yeah,
is
no.
a secret that he holds dear. And then does Superman ever reveal to people that he's an alien? Like, I don't think so.
yes,
He does?
The son.
that's the no, that's the pivotal part of his relationship with Lois. Is in most, not all, a lot of storylines, the way they get to know each other is he chooses her to interview and tells her about his past so the world knows about it.
Okay. Okay.
Like,
Well,
he's
and
like,
that's kind of what Kara did with
Cat Grant.
yeah, Cat Grant too. Like she was like, no, I'm this, but like I'm like my cousin, but I'm technically older than him. But like
Yeah, and in that conversation too, it's like information and
mhm,
news that she's Superman's cousin in that
yeah.
specific episode. But like, even in the comics, like, that's, and a lot of the animated shows, like, the relationship between Superman and Lois stems from Superman trusting Lois Lane and to tell the world about his Kryptonian identity so that so the world can trust him, and so that Lois can trust him.
Who was the I can see his face, I cannot think of his name. Um the photographer in Supergirl, black guy,
Jimmy Olsen?
tall. Yes, Jimmy Olsen. Like he also reveals to Jimmy Olsen, like
Jimmy Olsen, he shares I believe in the comics, Jimmy Olsen is an older, like, not like age in the comics, but like, Jimmy Olsen was around before Lois Lane.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, Jimmy Olsen,
Superman's pal.
Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, is a big thing, and that was kind of Clark Kent's connection to the
Mhm.
human world. So yeah, Superman's a really interesting
So
character to
then
look at identity with.
who do you think is Superman's true personality, true identity? Is it
Clark Kent.
Superman, Clark Kent, or is it Kal-El, the
I
alien
don't
orphan?
I don't think there is a true identity. I think it depends on the universe you're in too. I feel like,
Mhm.
let's see, if you look at the main continuity of the comics, I think it's Superman. But if you're looking at the CW shows like Superman and Lois, I think it's Clark Kent. And then if you're looking at some of the alternate universe like Superman ones, like Superman, what's it called? The one where he goes and lives in the sun for like a million years and comes back in the future.
What a
Um,
guy.
oh yeah, no, he's like literally shining gold. I think he's Kal-El. So like, I think that's something that's more fluid in that character, whereas in like the strong majority of like Batman iterations, he's more Batman than he is Bruce Wayne. But with Superman, it's another one of those balance things. But I feel like he has more of a struggle with the balance than, let's say, Peter Parker, going between Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Speaking of
See,
Peter
and
Parker and
I'd
Spider-Man,
say really quick, I'd say Clark Kent because honestly, like if he wasn't with the Kent family and didn't grow up with them, I feel like Superman would have turned out a lot differently. So
Yeah.
I feel like Clark Kent's kind of like the main, and then Superman is like he's using Clark Kent's like knowledge and personality and just amplifying it with his powers to do
Mhm.
good.
that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely, I see that reflected definitely in the CW universe, the Superman and Lois show specifically. Is, or heck, even Man of Steel, kind of like, if you look at the original movie, like, Mom and Pa Kent are the reason that he is able to go be a hero, not
Mhm.
Gosh, he could have
not his
saved
crypto.
Pa Kent.
He could have saved Pa Kent, but I will let Zack Snyder make his dark movies. Um,
He was trying
But
not to reveal that he was Superman. Come on.
he can
Not
move
worth my
fast enough
dad's
that
life.
he could have moved fast enough that no one has seen him move. I rest my case. But anyway, speaking of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, which we're no longer speaking about, I think one of the best explorations of identity in all of like comic books, specifically comic books, because they don't really do it in the movie, but is the Civil War storyline. For those of you who haven't read the Civil War comic, um, it's quite a bit different than the movie. So where the Civil War stems from is the Superhero Registration Act, I believe is it's what it's
Yep.
called.
Yep.
And superheroes must, come and state their secret identity for the government so that they can, keep track of them and there can be less like damage control. Iron Man's all for it, but Iron Man also has no issue telling people that he is Tony Stark, even in the comics. That's generally not a problem. And Cap is like, no, us as heroes need to maintain our autonomy and we have this right to privacy, a very American idea. And that's, yeah, salute the Cap. And that is a really divisive issue over secret identity in the comics. It causes a civil war in which many, quote unquote, for a comic book, many characters die.
Rip Goliath.
Rip Goliath, rip Captain America.
Rip
Spoilers.
a bunch of people that Punisher shoots.
Oh yeah. I don't even think I can name them all. But
no, there's a bunch of villains.
No, he takes out a lot. The Punisher is a fun guy. But I think the biggest shock, and at the time of reading it, when I read the Civil War comic, I was very surprised that Spidey sided with Iron Man, and that Spider-Man came out to the world as Peter Parker of his own accord. That to me was like quite a shock, and I think him doing that, especially with all the conversations around Spider-Man's identity with the current movie franchise, it's like, oh, this is a very contentious point for Spider-Man. It's very, very important. But why is it that important, and why was it surprising that he came out and did that?
Well, the other thing too is like at least in the movies, Tony Stark was trying to keep the identity of Peter Parker a secret, at least at the beginning. Like, yeah, he used him in the movie Civil War, but then he was like, no, you have to go back to being a teenager and just using the pajamas that you made, used for your costume to hide your identity. And like, he tries to push him back into the keep it a secret. And then that was always just like confusing to me that he's like, yeah, let's have the thing
Well, because
where
he wasn't. You're fighting Captain America. He's not going to kill a 16-year-old kid. You're fighting Vulture. He was going to kill Peter. Even after he knew who Peter was.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was Tony. Tony had his eye on that. He's like, he can fight. He can hold his own against some of these people, and even if he loses, he'll be helpful and he won't die, and I won't feel guilty.
He could physically hold up all of those people.
Yes, he was holding up that whole freaking oil tanker for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But
I forget how strong he is. Gosh.
Oh yeah, no, it's impressive. He keep going. Have you seen that TikTok trend where they're playing is it a Nirvana song? No, it's not Nirvana. Anyway, the lyrics goes, "Teenager scare the living shit."
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. I don't know why I thought it was Nirvana. There's a difference. I was thinking it Smells Like Teen Spirit as lyrics, and that is Nirvana.
Yeah.
But yeah, where they do that, and they've done it for a couple of like MCU scenes, and the scene where like Spidey catches Bucky's arm, he's like, "Teenager scared." I was like, oh yeah, that. So that's impressive. But going back to that conversation of identity with Spider-Man, I feel like the reason it was so divisive in the comic, or not divisive, but it was so shocking in the comic, was like Spidey, like we know just how like important that, distinction of I am Spider-Man, but I'm also Peter Parker, and they are separate, but I use them both equally. So merging them together like that just showed like how much Peter believed in like what they were doing, even though it was kind of, as much as Tony's side was BS in the movie, it was BS in the comics too.
Yep.
But
I would still like to point out in the movie, Cap was the only one who fully read the Accords.
Wait, who didn't? Who? What? I mean, I don't think Tony can read. I think Tony either has ADHD or dyslexia, and it makes it very difficult for him to
Oh,
read.
He pays
Or
people to
both.
read for him.
Yes, that's Tony
But
Stark.
he became oh, what was it? In the Avengers. He became it wasn't neurophysicist.
Thermonuclear physicist,
Yeah, he became a
an
thinking
expert in
words.
thermonuclear
Yeah.
physics overnight.
Yeah. So
But
like
that's because he has the tech to visualize it.
that's fair. But like I feel like he could have had like Jarvis or Friday. I guess Friday at that point, because Ultron already happened, right?
Oh, he just goes up to Vision. Hey, Vision, I need you to be Jarvis again real quick and read me this book.
Yeah. Like,
Oh, of course, sir. And then he just phases away.
but like, he has the technology to be able to have it read to him too, or like, broken down for him. But
Yeah.
like, between him and Cap and like the rest of them, like you literally saw, Steve Rogers with the book going, okay, and slowly turn the page. And then, a little bit later he was a little bit farther in, but so like, I feel like the only people who really should have had any say in those was who actually fully read them. But
Well, I mean, when you have the United Nations and the U.S. government saying you have to sign this, otherwise we're coming after you,
that's fair.
it's either your options are sign it or don't. It doesn't really matter if you read it. But yeah, I think, but Spidey revealing his identity like that, I think, just shows how that relationship between like the hero identity and the civilian identity, no matter what like archetype it is a part of like character development and character how do you say it? How do I want to say it? It's a way to characterize your character of their relationship with their identity and how they choose to reveal it and not reveal it. And I think whether it's superhero genre or not, having this like alternate identity or secret identity kind of plays with the idea of like identity in our own lives. And I feel like a lot of us, if we were able to, have relatively little consequences and be someone that's slightly different than ourselves, would jump at the chance. And I think it's fun to explore that through either comic books or other forms of media. But anyway, as always here on Raving Geeks, we like to end with some recommendations for our viewers, whether that be movies, video games, comics, or anything else geeky. So, Isaac or Hope, one of you have a recommendation for us?
All right, I'll go first. So my recommendation is the new Amazon Prime movie Cinderella. I know that there are people online on social media who are like, "This is terrible, it's awful," but I also feel like they went into it thinking that it was gonna be like a traditional Cinderella story, like just a remake, but it's the same exact story that we've gotten told many, many times because it's just called Cinderella. It's not like a Cinderella story or any of those versions. Like, so don't go into it thinking that you're gonna hear bibbidi bobbidi boo. But like, you still have all the same characters, and honestly, like, I loved the music that they put into it. The fact that like we get somebody to love again in a Cinderella adaptation is beautiful. And I think her name is Winnie Ryder. That's her second like Cinderella adaptation that has somebody to love in it, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Wait, the Queen song?
The Queen, the actress who plays the Queen in the new Cinderella movie.
Oh, no, like the band Queen. Somebody to love. Okay.
Yeah.
Find me somebody
Somebody
to
to
love.
love.
Just like an Ella Enchanted.
Exactly. Which the Queen in this Cinderella movie wasn't Ella Enchanted as a fairy godmother. So as Ella's fairy godmother,
yes.
although like not, yeah. But they also like make fun of the fact that Pierce Brosnan can't sing and like actually admit that he can't sing. So I really liked it. I loved the ending and how different it was from traditional tellings of Cinderella, and the fact that like it's kind of updated for modern views on society and stuff. And I mean, some things are still kept the same, because of Cinderella and everything, and just the time period. But like, music was phenomenal, and Idina Menzel was phenomenal. Camila Cabello, you know, I like her. She's not at the top of my list for anything, but she has a good voice, and she did a good job in this too. So I really like it. Yeah, that's my
Nice.
recommendation.
Yeah, I'll have to peruse it. My recommendation, it's not new. It's an older game, but it's Age of Mythology, which I grew up playing. It's made by the people that made Age of Empires. You can get it on Steam though. You can get the enhanced extended edition, which comes with the first DLC. But basically, it's a story about it's oh gosh, what are the games called? Like Eagle Eye View. You have a little town center. You build builders. Those builders build buildings, and you
Oh,
make
yeah.
troops. Real time strategy, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I love it. And basically, you can play as the Greeks, Egyptians, or Norse, and each follow different pantheons of gods. And so you can like upgrade your things through the different like deities, and it's really cool. And there's different myth units, and each time you like right click on someone, it has like information like about that myth unit, or even like normal non-myth units. Like if you just like type in like, if you right click on like a certain like Egyptian, like I don't know, soldier, it'll be like, yeah, Egyptian soldiers like use these weapons and stuff. And so it's like kind of like a history lesson. But there's a DLC that has to do with Titans, which is pretty cool. And then there's a second DLC which I just got, which is why I'm recommending it. But it introduces a Chinese pantheon and like the like 8 immortals and stuff like that. And it's pretty fun. I'm a big
Nice.
fan.
Is that a mobile game?
This is on my computer.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Like,
Take it
'cause I know-
away,
is it-
Brendan. Oh,
Sweet.
sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. My recommendation, if you have Disney Plus, I highly recommend. This week they released the first anime set in the Star Wars universe, called Star Wars Visions. I'm about halfway through it right now. I think there's 9 episodes. I think no, I've watched 6 of them, so I got 3 left to watch. So far, it is absolutely incredible. Some of the top anime studios from Japan all got their crack at an episode, and they fall somewhere within the Star Wars timeline, but I don't think any of them are canon, so they got to like play with a lot of like cool concepts. I could see them saying, yeah, no, this one's canon, but this one isn't, things like that later on. But it's really, really fun. The time frames range from like prequels to after Rise of Skywalker. I've watched 2 episodes that take place after Rise of Skywalker, and those are really cool because it's super open-ended. Like you don't have to work with any constraints of the Star Wars timeline. And some of them are a little more like serious and like have big battles, and others are like some of your like fun, chummy anime episode type things. Like they range from all different types of styles in terms of art styles and narrative styles, and they're awesome. So highly recommend. Yeah, so that's all we have for you today. Thank you all for joining us here at Raving Geeks. Make sure you leave a comment wherever you're listening from. We love to hear you, all your thoughts on the episodes, what you'd like to hear from us, and any potential questions of the week for our upcoming episodes. We really want to interact with y'all, so reach out. Twitter DMs are a great place to do it. YouTube comments are a great place to do it. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'm sure you can contact us through anything. But TikTok, we have a tough time reaching back out to people. We're trying to figure that out. So if you DM us on TikTok and we don't respond, we're sorry. We will read them. But anyway, yeah, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter at Raving Geeks, as well as on our TikTok. And as always, I've been Brendan Valentine, along with my co-hosts.
Hope good, Earl.
And I'm Isaac Hunter.
Stay geeky and have a great weeky, everyone. Good night
Bye.
or morning, whatever time of the day it is.